sawa. Mko sawa? Sawa. So hello everybody and welcome at the Sheldrick Wildlife Trust and Nairobi Nursery. Today is on a Monday in the morning at 11 a.m. We're going to bring you the live feed for the baby elephants here in the nursery. We've got 12 baby elephants and they're all here because they're orphans. You can see the keepers are ready to feed them the milk. You can see the bottles in the background as well. We feed them on intervals of 3 hours day and night, and so that is why they need the keepers to be with them 24 hours to provide the feed. And we do this because they're orphans, they've lost the mothers, and when they are with the mothers they feed very frequently. When they're born they'll suckle the mother's milk on intervals of 10 minutes or so. The duration will keep on increasing as they continue to grow old, and that's why when a new baby comes in and is below the age of 1 year, we feed them on demand whenever they need it. And they show us that they need it by pushing around, stretching their trunk, opening their mouth, and making some noise around. And after 1 year, we put them on 3-hourly, and they spend the whole day out in the park. All the bushes you can see around is part of Nairobi National Park. And the elephants will spend the day out so that they can learn by natural instinct on how to behave as elephants. And we do this because the elephants don't stay with us forever. We only stay with them in the nursery for a period of 3 years. And any time after the age of 3, we will start to reintroduce them back into the world, and we'll always reintroduce them to Tsavo East National Park. And that is why we want them to already learn how to behave on how to be wild. And that's why we set them in a wild environment here within Nairobi National Park. The elephants have already come in for the bottles, and the first one to run in is, as usual, an elephant by the name Mukoka, who is only about 2 years old, who was rescued from northern part of Tsavo East National Park. And all the elephants have got names. All the names have got a relation. Caused them to be left orphans, and that's why Mukoka was rescued from northern part of Tsavo East National Park, an area called Mukoka, and he was identified all alone while at the age of about 7 months. It is not normal for a young elephant below 2 years to be alone without the mother, because they need the mother's milk for the first 2 years minimum. So if they happen to lose the mother, so they're below 2, it is obvious that's why we had to rescue him, so that we can hand-rear him here in the nursery before starting to reintroduce him back into the world. Nobody knows exactly what happened to the mother and the rest of the families, though later on we should be able to see different reasons that have caused all of them to be left orphans. For his case, he was identified all alone by our aerial surveillance who were on patrol, who found the baby all alone and tried to observe him, hoping for the mother to come and collect back the baby, trying to provide protection so that he's not attacked by the lions and the hyenas out there. And after some time of waiting, there were no signs of other elephants around. There was no sign of a female elephant around, which meant that he was an orphan. And he might have been an orphan from a different place and has been walking a long distance, trying to look for help, trying to look for company, trying to look for food, trying to look for the family, but not getting them. So that is why a decision was made to rescue him. He's now 2 years, and by the time he will be 3 years, he'll be ready to go back into the world and start the process of being reintroduced. In front of Mukoka is the youngest elephant that we've got in the nursery. Her name is Nalecu. She's only 1 year old now. She was rescued from the Masai Mara. She was identified within the park in the company of another older female elephant who had her own baby, whom we consider to be an auntie. And this was after the mother had died from a natural disease. Elephants will always stay in groups and families. They'll always protect all the young ones. And all the females have got strong maternal instinct. They always want to protect all the young ones in the family. in Naleku's case, she was being provided with protection by this auntie, but this auntie could not provide milk, which means she could have starved to death in the long run. So that is why a decision had to be made so that she could be rescued, other than letting her starve out there all alone, despite the fact that she had a big elephant that could provide protection. She was only 6 months old, and as I said, they need the mother's milk for the first 2 years. So if they lose the mothers when they're below 2, they could not have survived out in the world. At the same time, elephants will start to develop the milk teeth at the age of between 2 to 4 months. So at 6 months, the teeth were still very young to start browsing on different types of vegetation. They start to feed on different types of greens after the age of about 6 months, learning, chewing and dropping and swallowing a little bit and getting the liquid from the greens. Until the age of a year, that's when they can swallow a little bit of enough, and until the age of 2 years, that is when they can have enough vegetation to survive without the mother's milk. So Naleku would not have survived out there, despite the fact that she was being provided with protection from the auntie that who already had her own baby. She's only 1 year old, but very determined, very independent, very outgoing. She always wants to do her own things. She's very free. She has a freedom. And she's not really hooked to the other big girls like always young elephants will do. And that's why we believe she'll be a very independent elephant when she goes back into the wild finally. Next to me is Olorian, the latest arrival that we've got in the nursery, who has been with us for slightly a month, almost 2 months now. And Olorian is about almost 18 month old. And Olorian was rescued from the Masai Mara. She was also identified all alone without a sign of other elephants within the forest, and was observed by the rangers for some time, expecting to see a mother coming for this baby, or another herd of elephants inviting or taking care of her, something that never happened. And as you wait to see if the baby will be reunited into another herd, you have to consider that this baby is not getting milk, and so they can easily starve and die. And that's why you don't have to wait for a longer time. So because her condition was getting worse or bad, a decision had to be made so that Olorian is rescued, other than continue to wait and lose her life because of starvation. So that is how Olorian came in the nursery. She's approximately almost 18 months old and adjusting well. If you happen to have seen her when she came in, she was very skinny, only skeleton. But right now, she's gotten some strength, some muscles on the body as well, and she's active compared to when she came in, which means she's adjusting well, and very soon she'll be running around with everybody and making friends with everybody out there. Next, having his bottle is an elephant by the name Naboishu, who is almost 2 years old, who was rescued from the Masai Mara, whose mother is believed to have died from a natural disease, and he was left alone, still in the herd. Considering the fact that he was still in the herd and being provided with protection, but he still needed milk, and there was no female elephant in the same herd that would have provided milk to Naboishu. So that's why a decision has to be made so that Naboishu is rescued, other than leaving him in the herd and letting him starve to death. So that is why he's here in the nursery at almost 2 years at the moment. Next, we've got an elephant by the name Laro, who is approximately 2 years old. And Laro was rescued from the Masai Mara or Laro Conservancy, identified all alone within this conservancy, and suspected to have been separated from her family by human beings. And so she's believed to be a victim of human-wildlife conflict. Behind Laro is the main matriarch, the mother figure, the leader of all the elephants that we've got in the nursery at the moment, rolling down on the outside of the water hole. It is a little bit warm, but not hot enough for them to get into the mud bath, and that is why Maisha decided to roll outside the water hole. She's only over 3 years. She was rescued from Sava Conservation Area, and she became an orphan during the period when we had a longer period of starvation, a longer period of drought. There was no rain, and so no water, and so no food, which means the animals would die out there because there was no food. And that is what is believed to have caused Maisha to have lost the mother and was left an orphan. She was about 8 months old by then. Right now, she's approximately over 3 years. And she's in charge of the 12 elephants that we've got in the nursery by virtue of her being the oldest female. And this is because by natural instinct, when they're out in the world, it is always the oldest female that automatically takes charge of the rest of the herd. All the others will listen to the commands and the instructions of the oldest female, and they will listen because the elephants have got their own languages. They communicate. They know who is older, they know who is the matriarch, and they want to listen to the matriarch. And that's why Maisha took over after Tagwa and Tamioi left the nursery a few months ago. Next to Maisha is her favorite out of all the 12 babies. This is Rojo, who is approximately 1.5 years old, who was rescued from Savo West National Park, whose mother is suspected to have been killed by poachers, and that's why Rojo was left alone while at the age of about 7 months. Right now he's almost 1.5 years, and he's adjusting well, considering the fact that he underwent a longer period of stress and trauma since he saw what happened to the mother, and that stressed him for a very long time, and that is why he has always been attached to the big girls around. That is always, he's never comfortable being alone like Nalecu would do. That is why you'll always find him with either Maisha, with Nabulu, or with Kiasa. But we are happy to tell that there is a great improvement, and he's trying to walk away, trying to learn to do his own things. But the girls are really hooked to him, and they always want to take care of him, want to protect him, want to reassure him that all is safe. He's the one rolling down in the dust, and right behind him is Maisha, the matriarch, providing all the care and protection that is needed and expected. Second biggest in size, as you can see them all in a group, the second biggest in size is an elephant by the name Nabulu, who is about 3 years old, who was rescued from the Masai Mara, identified all alone, very thin and weak, very skinny, very much dehydrated, a sign that she had been alone for a long time without the mother's milk, and also without enough greens. And as I said, Nabulu was below a year, and below a year the elephants still need the mother's milk. So that is why she could not have survived out all alone. Right now she's about 3 years old, and since she's the second oldest, she's the second in command after Maisha, and assisting Maisha to take care of all the young ones that we've got around. She's the one lying down in the dust. After having been sprayed the little water by the keepers, the whole body feels itchy, and she wants to roll around and get the dust as well. Everybody crowded right in the middle, but we can talk about Maktau right here, who is about 2.5 years. And Maktau was rescued from Sava Conservation Area near a place called Maktau. He was identified in our community at the age of about a month, a sign that he had been separated from the family by human beings, and that's why we had to come in and help rescue him. He was only 3 months old by then. Right now he's approximately 2.5 years old. We do have a Kiasa here, who is about 3 years old now. And Kiasa was rescued from Sava Conservation Area. She's also a drought victim. The mother is believed to have died from starvation due to drought, and that's why we had to come in and help rescue Kiasa. Dusting himself is Kyombo, the oldest boy we've got in the nursery at the moment, slightly over 2.5, almost 3 years. And Kyombo was rescued from the Masai Mara, identified all alone within the park while at the age of below a year old, which is not normal, which is not safe. A sign that he was an orphan, but we could not tell exactly what caused him to be left alone. So I believe that makes a total of 12 elephants, all under our care for the first 3 years before we start to reintroduce them back into the wild. We'll always reintroduce them to Tsavo East National Park and Kibwezi Forest. We've got our keepers that will still monitor them. We've got 3 reintroduction centers. One is based within the northern part of Tsavo East National Park, a place called Idumba. That is the Laro rolling down, Rojo mounting on top. We've got a second reintroduction center called Voi Stockades. And then we've got one in Kibwezi Forest, Umani Spring Stockades. We've got teams of keepers that will monitor the elephants, lead them out of the park every day, setting them free to interact with different groups of wild elephants until the time they make friends with different groups of wild families, who later on will invite them in the families. And once they all get adopted in a herd of wild elephants, they'll be trained by the wild elephants on how to stay back into the wild naturally. They'll be protected against all other dangers out in the wild. They'll also be warned against human beings by the wild elephants. And because wild elephants know human beings are a threat to them, that's why they'll warn our orphans, which means all the 12 that you can see here now at some point will have become as wild as any other elephant out there. And that process of reintroducing them back into the wild takes quite a long time before it fully happens. It takes a minimum of about 5 years, a maximum of about 10 years before they join different groups of wild elephants. And it takes this long period because it depends on the different reasons that have caused them to be left orphans. It also depends with their age when they became orphans. It also depends with what really caused them to be left orphans. For example, if one became an orphan when they're still very tiny, just a few days old or a few months old, will automatically take a long time to make friends with the wild herds who later on invite them. Oh, we didn't talk about Ziwadi at the far end, who is enjoying the water spray at the moment. Ziwadi is 2 years old. She was rescued from the Masai Mara. She was identified and suspected to have been abandoned or left behind by the rest of the family members. And when she came in, we discovered that she's epileptic. Sometimes she goes into seizures and she's left behind. We put her on medication and she has improved greatly. So we expect her to be back to normal when it is time ready for her to go back into the world. So I was just mentioning the reasons that will cause them to take a longer period before they join families. If a baby comes in the nursery at a very young age, they'll take a longer time to make friends with the wild herds before they get adopted, compared to one who came in when he's 1 year and above. If one saw the mother being killed and they are at an age where they could remember everything, they'll obviously want to go back into the wild. They'll obviously want to join the wild herds because they won't forget that human beings are a threat, despite the fact that we give them all the good care while in the nursery. We don't inflict any pain on them because elephants have a perfect memory. If you inflict pain, they will remember it all the time and will always want to revenge it to you. And that's why one has to be very gentle, very protective, and very compassionate while dealing with these baby elephants. So those are the reasons that will take some to take a longer time, others to take a shorter time before they eventually join the wild herds. But what we've come to realize is all of them will all go back into the wild despite the different durations that they take. And that is what our main goal is. Our main goal is to ensure that we set them free back into the wild because they belong to the wild. They don't need to stay in an enclosed area. They need to be free. They need to do their own things out in the wild like any other elephant out there. So if you're joining us now, welcome. 12 baby elephants with us now. Already finished the bottles at the 11 a.m. milk feed. They might want to roll in the mud. It's a little bit warm but not hot enough for them to get into the water hole. Some are feeding on the greens. They've been rolling in the dust. They have changed to the other dust at the far end. We just set them free to do what they want. We don't train them on any particular thing, and we don't want to train them because when they go out in the world, they learn everything from the wild families or from the wild herds on how to behave. So if you're joining us now, welcome. We are at the Sheldrick Wildlife Trust, Nairobi Nursery. 12 baby elephants before us now, all orphans, and that's why they're here. Orphaned from different parts of the country and with different reasons for being orphans. Some of them, the mothers have been killed by poachers due to trade in ivory. Some have been separated from their families by human beings, what we call human wildlife conflict. And very few, the mothers have died from natural reasons like old age, natural diseases, and starvation back into the world. And all this happening to the mothers when the babies are still very young, at an age where they would not have survived without the mother's milk and without protection against other dangers. And that is why we have to come in so that we can rescue them and rear them here for approximately 3 years before starting to reintroduce them back into the wild within Sava Conservation Area. The Sheldrick Wildlife Trust does not only take care of elephants and rhinos, but we do have other projects that we undertake. For example, we've got mobile veterinary units, we've got anti-poaching teams, we've got community project, we've got an aerial surveillance, we've got a dog unit, and all that is working together with the Kenya Wildlife Service to ensure that all animals are safe in the parks. For example, anti-poaching teams will patrol the parks with the Kenya Wildlife Service rangers, looking for snares and desnaring them, ensuring that there are no poachers in the parks, ensuring that there are no people burning charcoal in the parks for the safety of all animals. Our community project will go out to treat any injured animal that has been found out there, not necessarily an elephant and rhino alone. Any other animal that has been found out there with any health problems, once identified, we are conducted, and our mobile veterinary unit will go out to help treat the injured animals and immediately set them free to continue with their own natural life after treatment. We do have a community project that will go around the communities that are neighboring the parks and the reserves, giving them education on how to coexist and stay peacefully neighboring one another with these wild animals. The same community project will also go and educate the children in schools neighboring the parks and the reserves on the importance of these animals. When children are still young, they need to know that all animals have the right to life and so need to be protected and cared for, need to be set free in a wild environment so that they can only die a natural death, not because somebody is interested in their skin, in their ivory, or in the meat. And all that is done by our community project to ensure that the children have education and the communities have education on what to do and how to behave in case they encounter the animals in their communities. So you might be interested in supporting the work that is being done by the Sheldrick Wildlife Trust. You are welcomed. You only need to go on our website and find out how you can donate. It is very easy. You can donate towards adopting an elephant, which is costing a minimum fee of $50 a year. And when you adopt an elephant, you can adopt an elephant for yourself or as a gift to a friend. And if you do it as a gift, it is a gift recipient that will receive the updates every month. But if you do it for yourself, it's you that will receive the updates every month. And when you adopt an elephant, we'll open an account for you and we'll be updating your account every month, letting you know all that is happening in the nursery. In case we got a new rescue, in case we got to move the elephants from one area to the other, everything that happens will be updated to you. You'll also get a special watercolor painting, which is done by Angela Sheldrick. You'll also get our keeper's diary updated to you on monthly basis. And the keeper's diaries are being written by different keepers on daily basis, telling different stories from different orphans. And all that will be brought to your account on monthly basis online. So you can participate in the work that is being done by the Sheldrick Wildlife Trust by just going on our website, finding out how you can help support, and you will have played your role to ensure that these elephants have a better life in the nursery before they become wild, and also ensuring that they all eventually go back into the wild. So I'd like to take this opportunity and thank you all for joining us for this 11 a.m. milk feed. I want to believe you've enjoyed what you've seen, having all the 12 elephants before you. They will be heading out in the park for the rest of the day. As I said in the beginning, they stay in the park all day from 6 in the morning, always in the company of the keepers until at 5 in the evening when they come back for bed. So they'll all head out until at 5 in the evening when they come back for bed. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you very much for supporting the work that we do. We hope you will continue to keep safe and continue to support us as we continue to take care of them. Well, Ziwadi wants to have a scratch on the post before she follows the rest.